Hey, you got any extra pillows? We got a friend staying the night on the couch and they need a pillow.
Oh, I happen to have one right here.
Do you got any more by chance?
How many do you need?
A lot.
Hello friendos, this is Chain. Welcoming you back to Chain of Commander. It is time for this month's Chief's Choice deck tech. And you know, I figure since we already did Gen earlier this month, might as well do my second favorite commander to come out of Commander's Legends, Yurlok of Scorch Thrash. Now, before we get into it, I do ask if you end up enjoying this sort of deck tech, if you enjoy things like this, definitely consider subscribing. Love to have you folks join us going forward. If you like it, hit the like button to show it. And if this deck list is something that you think you want to build or get into, or even if there's just specific cards you want to add to something you're brewing up, use that TCG Player affiliate link, use that deck list below. It won't cost you a single cent more, but it will help out the channel. All that said, let's get into this guy here, because he brings us back to some of the old mechanics of Magic the Gathering. Yurlok of Scorch Thrash. 1 black, red, green for a 4/4 legendary creature Viashino Shaman. He has Vigilant. A player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life, and has the activated ability of 1 and tap to add black, red, green to each player's mana pool. That line of text there, a player losing unspent mana causes that player to lose that much life. This is the reintroduction of mana burn. First gotten rid of because it was considered too restrictive and too micromanaging over the term of the game's mechanics, which is bringing back in this guy's static ability to give us something new to brew around. So how do we take this symmetrical ability? It doesn't just affect your opponents, it affects you too. How do we make that ability work for us? You want to know how? X spells and Hydras, which are the best X spells out there. What we want to do, we want to ramp ourselves, we want to ramp our opponents, we want to have X spells to dump that mana into. Your opponents won't. We'll have big creatures to attack, your opponents won't. So let's just get into this here. Like I said, we're here to ramp everybody, ourselves, our opponents, but mainly ourselves. So we'll have things like Arcane Signet, Astral Cornucopia, and Soul Ring, some mana rocks here. And that Astral Cornucopia, it uses counters to kind of keep track of how much mana you add, and that might come in handy a little bit later. We'll get back to that one. We'll have some creatures here that allow us to play multiple lands per turn. So we got Azusa, Lost But Seeking, and we got Oracle of Moldiah. We have some creatures that fetch us lands for us. We got Secure Tribe Elder, and we got Wood Elves. And then we have a bunch of 2 mana rampy things in Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, and with this reprinting Commander Legends, 3 visits is significantly more accessible now. We have Green Sun Zenith, which might be a creature tutor. It might be a 1 mana land ramp when you go to fetch your Dryad Arbor. We have Zendikar Resurgent, which is a mana doubler and can also grab us a whole bunch of card draws as we start playing the creatures that we get. And then we have Nyxbloom Ancient. This is a mana tripler. If we tap Yurlok with Nyxbloom Ancient out, it adds triple mana for everybody. So have fun watching your opponents try to spend 9 mana if you activate this during your turn. It'll be great. Then we have 2 much significantly more budget replacements for Gaia's Cradle. We have Growing Rites of Itlimoc, which flips over to Itlimoc Cradle of the Sun. And then we have Xenagos the Reveler, whose plus ability. Both of these cards add mana equal to the amount of creatures you have to your mana pool. And then, like I said, we have ways to ramp everybody here, so our opponents can get on the fun too. We have Eladamri's Vineyard, which adds green to the active player's mana pool at the beginning of their pre-combat main phase. And then we have a bunch of mana doublers that just help everybody out. Zurta Ancient, Dictate of Karametra, which has flash on it, so you can flash it out at your previous opponent's end step if you want to take advantage of it first. Heartbeat of Spring, Mana Flare, and Overabundance, which also will do damage when they tap a land for mana. So, we have a whole bunch of mana. How do we make sure we keep having spells to use this mana on? Well, we have some ways to ensure that we keep drawing cards throughout the game. We got Beast Whisper and Garruk's Uprising. Both of these reward us for playing creatures. Beast Whisper, we just need to cast the creature. Garruk's Uprising is looking for big creatures entering the battlefield for us. Let's say we have a bunch of creatures out already. We have Shamanic Revelation, which can draw us cards equal to the amount of those creatures and even gain us some life if we have enough big creatures out there. We have cards that, while not necessarily card draw, are card advantage because they let us play lands from the top of our deck. And that is Courser of Krufix and Rada Heart of the Keld. In addition to the previously mentioned Oracle of Moldiah, we can make sure that we're not getting any dead draws. And then we have Reap the Past. This is a way to get all of the useful spells from our graveyard back again. And it's a nice X spell that we can use to dump extra mana into. Now, because we're giving our opponents a bunch of extra mana as well, we're likely to see some things on the table that maybe we don't actually want there. So we have ways to get rid of things here. We have Retribution of the Ancients and Hero's Downfall. These are ways to get rid of targeted creatures, and Hero's Downfall can even handle a Planeswalker for us. We have Black Sun Zenith. This is a board wipe that uses X in it, so we can dump all our mana into there to just nuke the board and get rid of everything. We have other board wipes in Blasphemous Act and in Garruk's Wake. In Garruk's Wake, a one-sided board wipe, so all your stuff gets to live while all of your opponent's stuff gets to die. If there's one particular player who's getting a little bit out of hand, we have Lavalanche to take care of them, a Planeswalker they control, and all their creatures. We have Rolling Thunder and Comet Storm. These are both 2 X spells, X burn spells that can divvy up the damage as we deem accordingly amongst any number of targets. And then to handle any sort of like artifacts or enchantments that are getting in our way, we have Reclamation Sage and Return to Nature. If anybody's doing anything with a bit craziness in their graveyard, we have Scavenging Ooze, Skoos, to handle what they're trying to do there. And then we have a couple modular spells here that can do any combination of the previously mentioned effects. We have Jund Charm and Golgari Charm. And then lastly, though not removal itself, it's more like anti-removal. It kind of protects our stuff. Heroic Intervention can keep our creatures alive when anybody tries to get in there and get rid of them on us. So, like I said, we have all those creatures here. People might want to try to get rid of them on us, but man, we want to keep them because Hydras are cool. And I loaded up some of the most fun, most interesting Hydras I could think of to really stick in this deck so we have as much fun as possible. We have Apocalypse Hydra, which you can pay to remove a counter and ping something. We have Capricopian. This is a very new Hydra that causes this cool political game where if you attack an opponent and they don't want to be attacked by it, they can pay 2 mana to make it attack somebody else and also put a counter on it. And this can just keep going back and forth as long as people have enough mana to pay into it. It could be a real fun situation. Gargo's Vicious Watcher. This makes Hydras 4 generic mana cheaper, and whenever a creature you control is the target of a spell, it can fight and help remove stuff for you. It's great. Genesis Hydra. Gen Wave Light. You can use it and get 2 amazing permanents for 1 spell. Grakmaw, Skyclad Ravager. This is one that keeps getting bigger as other creatures you control with 1/1 counters on him die. And then when he dies, he brings in a buddy that's the same size as him to keep fighting the good fight for him. Then we have Gyrus, Waker of Corpses. This is essentially a reanimator Hydra on a stick that can bring back anything from your graveyard that had unfinished business for 1 more attack. Hungering Hydra. This is the one that craves damage because any damage that isn't enough to kill it only makes it stronger. You know that phrase, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Hungering Hydra takes that to heart. Hydra Broadmaster. If you want to make a bunch of Hydras, Hydra Broadmaster is where you want to dump your mana. You could be making exponentially large amounts of large Hydras with this thing. Hydra Omnivore. Why damage one opponent when you can damage all your opponents at once? Spread the love. Let everybody have a little bit. And Colonian Hydra. This doubles the amount of counters on things that you control every time it attacks. So you can make all your Hydras super big. Lifeblood Hydra. We were just talking about making Hydra super big. Lifeblood Hydra is one you're going to want super big because Lifeblood Hydra gains life and draws you cards equal to the amount of counters on it when it dies. Molten Hydra. This is another one that you want as big as possible because you can tap it to remove all its counters to do damage to any target equal to the amount of those counters. Poliquidos Unchained. This is another fight Hydra. You can bring it back from the graveyard, you can cast it, you can pay to just have it fight things, and then it doesn't even necessarily die. Just remove damage or remove counters from it equal to the amount of damage it takes and just do it over and over again because it has escape. The OG Poliquidos World Eater. This is the one that has another fight ability on it, but its monstrosity is that it can deal damage distributed amongst any number of creatures equal to X. Those creatures will deal damage back. So it might die in this exchange, but it's going to take a lot of things down with it. Ulash the Hate Seed. This might be one of my favorite arts in all of Magic. It just looks so cool. You can pay to remove a counter from it, to ping any target, or you can pay to remove the counter to make a Saproling token. So a little bit of utility there. Voracious Hydra. This is one that when it enters the battlefield does one or two things. You can either double the amount of counters on it, or you can have it fight another creature out there. So a little bit of utility there. And then lastly, Walking Ballista. While not necessarily a Hydra himself, he does operate with X's in its cost, with counters and pinging things. So it's essentially an honorary Hydra here for all intents and purposes. Now, we have these Hydras. Some of them have trample, but not all of them. So there could be some situations where if there's people out there with like a bunch of tokens, it might be difficult for our damage to get through. So where do we get our kick from? Well, we get our kick from Finale of Devastation. If you pump at least 10 into the X of Finale of Devastation, all your creatures get +X until end of turn, and they gain haste. So what you do with this Finale of Devastation, you go get Nylea, God of the Hunt, which gives all your other creatures trample. Now you suddenly have a team full of hasty, trample-y, +X Hydras that can just swing in at everybody and finally push the damage through to hopefully finish out the game. Now, sometimes it doesn't go as well to plan, and you might be stuck with, well, no Hydras on your board. You're playing against 3 other decks that are mono board clears. We do have a backup plan, and that backup plan is Helix Pinnacle. It is probably the best mana dump because you can just dump whatever mana into it. So as the game goes on, you just keep dumping extra mana you don't use into it over and over so you don't take damage from Yurlok. And when it gets to 100 counters, at your next upkeep, you win the game. We also have Evolution Stage in here to kind of speed up that process, but Evolution Stage comes with a couple other bonuses. As I mentioned, the Astral Cornucopia uses counters to keep track of how much mana you add when you tap it. Evolution Stage could add more counters to that, so as the game goes on, you could add more and more mana with your Astral Cornucopia. Your Hydras all get bigger and bigger and bigger with Evolution Stage. Your Retribution of the Ancients loves to see that because the more +1/+1 counters on your creatures, the more creatures Retribution of the Ancients can handle. So Evolution Stage kind of helps keep everything moving in the right direction here, and Helix Pinnacle is your safety net in case your creatures keep dying, which, you know, it can happen. And lastly, we have our mana base here. We are a Jund mana base, starting with Dryad Arbor. I know I mentioned this earlier for the Green Sun Zenith, but Dryad Arbor is an excellent target for GSZ. We have some red-black lands in Canyon Slough, Smoldering Marsh, and Dragon Skull Summit. We have some red-green lands. We got Shelter Thicket, Cinderglade, Rootbound Crag, and Stomping Ground. We have a couple green-black lands. We got Woodland Cemetery and Overgrown Tomb. A couple lands that tap for all our colors in Command Tower and Savage Lands. We have Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. This can tap for any color equal to our devotion. So let's say we got 10 green pips on the battlefield, which is not unheard of at all. This could be adding 10 mana in an activation. Otherwise, it just taps for one colorless. But this thing can represent a lot of mana as our board gets developed. We got 2 utility lands. We got Karn's Bastion. This is another proliferate source to help out with the Evolution Mystic or Evolution Sage. And then we got Kessig Wolfrun, which is an X dump to allow us to give something +X+O equal to X. So it could be anything too. It doesn't even need to be your creatures. If one of your opponents is attacking another one of your opponents, you can target their creature to make it huge and just do a whole massive chunk of damage. Beyond that, we got 4 Swamp, 4 Mountain, and 14 Forests to wrap up our mana base. And that is what I like to call Yurlok's many-headed friends. So at this point, I want to hear from you folks. I want to hear how you guys are going about building Yurlok. I know there's a couple people that are doing group slug. Like I said, I'm doing Hydras here. So I want to hear how you are setting up your Yurlok list. Let me know in the comments below. And you know, while you're down there in the description, I do have a link to a video from earlier this month where I am giving away both Commander Legends EDH Precon decks to one lucky winner somewhere in this world. It's a worldwide entry. It's free to enter. The link to the video, the details regarding the competition will be found in the description. So definitely feel free to check that out as well. That said, thank you all for joining me today. I'm excited about this deck. I'm going to have a lot of fun with it. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with your Yurlok builds, and, hope to see you again later this week. Y'all take care.